Boom. Hello, welcome to the Oswald Game. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to Stream Street Day. I forget at this stage. I think it's like 262, potentially. I'm joined by a guest we've had on before, one of my favourite people, a heart-stopping individual, Darren from Canhammer. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hey, thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me back again.
Look at your shelf. Do I see two Custodian ships there? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. One of the one Orion and one of the infamous Ares. Yeah.
Whoa. So, Stu Flynn, thanks for subscribing. Big love to you. Big love to everyone who's joined us live on this early show today. Darren's tuning in all the way, joining us all the way from Canada. And it's just nice to have you here. Thanks. Hey, have you been well? Catch us up. How's things? You been keeping well?
Yeah, it's been interesting over the COVID times. I myself have not been sick, but obviously lots of people have been sick. But yeah, we've been staying down and doing the work and trying to stay safe, and that's about it really. So yeah, it's been an interesting time to reassess priorities and what's important and what's not that important. And so there's been good and bad in this last 8-9 months for sure.
Is your main priority how good Custodians are? Is that the like?
That's my public persona. Yeah, obviously, like that's been two-edged. Like we got our book and we got new edition, and so we've been much better. Mm-hmm. And then on the other hand, we have not really been able to play very much. So it's at
all. I wonder because you're very technically savvy. So have you joined the ranks of the TTS tribes, or has that just not done it for you?
I just couldn't do it. Like there's physical reasons and mental reasons. Like I can't. It just doesn't seem that engaging to me. Mm-hmm. And like I kind of have the feeling where like if I want to play a video game, I'll just go over there to my PlayStation and play a video game. And there has been very good video games. And then the physical thing is the screen. Like when you have to like swing the screen around, and the graphics is like. It's the kind of game that gives me a headache. Yeah. So it literally just gives me a headache after 5-10 minutes, and I can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Although I was thankful, like I've jumped in and out at certain points, but I feel like the past couple of weeks I've been very excited about being into it. Especially I got to play the lovely Val Heffelfinger last night, which I'd like you to know I turn one him. I destroyed his stomper. I destroyed his stomper turn one. But it would, to be fair to him, it took all 18 smasher guns, and it was a bit of a like it was a lovely like first game against your friend sort of a situation. The last two smasher guns that wounded, I needed to do 12 damage on 2 dice. I rolled 1 6 and a 3. I re-rolled the 3 with a command point. Oh baby, I got the other 6, and I blew up his stomper in his own lines. So we re-racked, and I think he
long live the stomper.
Yeah, long live the stomper. But we re-racked, and I'm pretty certain he is winning game 2, so that's fine. Ultimately,
I've actually heard that the stomper has been causing people problems because they're not ready for it.
It's a lot of wounds, right? It's tough.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I don't know if it like the Eradicator's not like comfortably able to deal with it. I feel like that's the case.
I was under the impression Eradicators were comfortable dealing with anything, but if they just need more. I don't know. You know.
Yeah, I mean they can't get any, can they?
Yeah.
So launch catch us up with where you're at with 40k. So obviously like you haven't been able to play much, but you've still been doing the channel and the show, and you've like hyper specialized into Custodians, which I find really really interesting. Actually, I think that's really like clever but also interesting. Like how have you found like the journey for this new edition? Like have you been impressed with it so far? Like what's your kind of overall thoughts?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it actually. I think it's there's a lot of good going for it, and it still seems fresh and new, and because people haven't specifically haven't been able to play too much, it's still really, it seems like it plays very well. And now we'll see once all the books start rolling out, how that starts to throw things around. And of course, they already told us they're going to be releasing new missions and stuff. But I find that the edition just plays smooth, improvement over 8th. And so I've been enjoying it. Played a lot in the summer when COVID levels were allowing us to do it, and then just started replaying now since our COVID levels here are pretty low. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully once the world starts to return to normal, we can start putting it through our paces and seeing how that goes.
So one of the things I find quite there's loads of questions I want to ask you actually, because I think there's loads of things that you'll have been thinking through. So new edition though, like how have you found like the really simple things like the formatting of the books, and the general kind of like scope of play? Have you found it like easy, like more engaging than 8th, like more like easy to understand?
Yeah, the two best things I think about 9th. Number one, this book, the GT book.
Right.
It's small, it's portable, it's well formatted. It's got the rules too in it. Like I haven't touched my main rule book since this book came out. Mm-hmm. And the other good thing about it, and maybe this is a small thing for some people, but for me it's huge, ring binding so that it lies flat. Like it's just a little thing, but it makes a huge difference to when you're using this thing, over and over again. And this little elastic thing that you can use to put on your mission, like these are the little things that make a huge difference. So I really like that. And similarly, the formatting of the rulebook was really nice.
I feel like the ergonomics of the game could be absolutely like not reimagined, at least a little bit. Like, so obviously we've built a bunch of tables at the arena over like the past few months, and one of those big conversations we've been having is like kind of the ergonomics of the tabletop, right? Like do we like you want a little lip in front of your kind of like, but when the game mat just reaches right to the edge. And it's like the edge of the table. Guaranteed some models that are backboarded are coming off at some point. So having a little lip is useful. And then like things like the rule books and other stuff as well. I will say that like I really would wish that it was available online, although it obviously is on Warhampedia, so that's useful. But
it would be nice if the app worked as well. But
yeah. Well, I was going to ask you about that actually. Can I just say big shout out to everyone in the chat. Big up John Phipps, who says, "Can you let Darren know I'm a big fan of Custodians YouTube content? Keep up the great work." So there you go. Big shout out to you. Hello to K-Dread, Crazy Horse, Toughy Years. I hope you're all well. The app. I guess we could talk about that. That's hot new news. The app launched yesterday with the Battleforge. Finally, 4 or 5 months after promised. Have you played through with it?
It's difficult because a lot of it doesn't work. And so I played with it, and obviously I'm trying to build like just my current Custodians list, and I discovered that Trajan's not there, our main man. Mm-hmm. Can't find him, nowhere to find. And then I discover, well, if you have to click off your shield host and then he appears, and then click back on your shield host, but then if you then want to take Trajan off, you can't unclick your shield host, and it's like you have to like restart your detachment. It's weird.
Oh, really?
There's a lot of, the list goes on about stuff that doesn't work about it right now. And the problem is, like, I don't mind that the app is like this, but the app shouldn't be like this and be out in the public. Like, this is development stage, it's not even beta. It's like, if you beta something, you're giving people like little feedback, like, oh, this unit has the wrong picture, or this is spelled wrong, or these points are wrong. Like, this is like literally telling them how to make this app, which I don't know. I used to play a lot of MMOs, this multiplayer online games, and they always release games in basically beta state. And the first 6 months of playing any MMO is patching and getting it working and server loads and stuff like that. This is like even before that. Like, this is not even presentable. And then they tell you that you're gonna have to pay for this after a month. Oh man! On top of the app too, if I understand it correctly, and I'm not sure about that, but like that's just crazy. Why would you do that?
Yeah. So as I understand it, you pay for the app per month, which gives you the current pay structure gives you access to the old rules, which aren't new codexes, and then when Battleforge, and then in a month's time, the Battleforge element will be part of that cost as well. So basically paying £5 a month to be able to build lists. However, you can only build lists with codexes you've bought. So you can't get access to any of the rules with codex you haven't bought. So for me, it feels like ignoring its utility, like whether or not it's like it works really fluid and it looks really nice or any of that. It's just a straight no from me straight off the bat, because I've bought every one of the 8th edition books, so I don't really have a version of this. But let's say the Drukhari book comes out. I'm not like super keen to buy the Drukhari book for myself personally. Obviously, I've got to buy it for work. But let's say I didn't in my real life, but I wanted to start a Drukhari army. I was like, oh, okay, I fancy that. Like, I'd like to build a couple of lists, read the rules. Reading that will inspire me to go. And I know this is true. I know this is true as an end user, because the Age of Sigmar app does that exact same thing. I would look at a unit and I'd be like, actually, that's pretty cool. Look at its war scroll in the app, and then I'd go purchase it, right? And I just think that that's a real miss for them, because I said this yesterday in a tweet, and I got a lot of pushback on it, and I don't know what your thoughts are, but I really do think the rules should be free. I really think that because also they go out of date so fast compared to I buy some miniatures, right? Like I buy a miniature, I've probably got, I don't know, 5-10 years on it, maybe longer in some situations. A book's got maximum maybe 2 years. And I feel like I'm really throwing money after money on that project. So have you got any thoughts on free rules, or do you think they should be paid for?
Yeah, I don't know how much money they make off of selling books. No idea. The thing about this app is they have a model that works already in the Azure app. Mm-hmm. So why they have to make it different, I have no idea. But I think you could definitely give away the rules for free. Like, it's a frustrating thing. Like, let's say you're a Death Guard player, for example. You just bought the second last Psychic Awakening book, like literally like a month before 9th released, and now you got a new book coming already. Yeah, granted it was delayed, but that's literally what, like 2 months, like three months. Like, personally, I was surprised they didn't release a Necron Psychic Awakening and then hit 9th and then a Necron Codex. I thought that's what they were going to do. I was like, Necron guys, you guys are going to have to buy 2 books in 2 months. I literally thought that was going to do, and they didn't do that, to their credit. But like, yeah, the rules, like we don't want to complain that, our game doesn't get releases, because obviously it's cool to get all new stuff. But your books don't last very long. Just the other day, I took 5 or 6 books off of this bookshelf behind me and threw it in the recycle bin, right? Because we don't need them anymore. So, yeah, it would be cool if it was free, or like Azir, where you have access to some of the rules without having to pony up for the book first.
I honestly don't think that they would lose any revenue. I just think it transitions over to what their mission statement is, and their mission statement obviously is to be the best miniatures producers in the world and to do that forever. And I'm like, I think you're only putting people off on a continual book cycle. And if you allow, if fuck knows how much I have to spend per month at the minute on codices and also battle tomes, but it must be at least 100, 120 quid, maybe more. That easily could just be miniatures, which goes into and also there are miniature I could talk about this all day. Doesn't matter.
Go on. If you're serious about making the app good and work, and that you want everyone walking around at tournaments and games with the phone out looking at things, then you got to cut the paper. I mean, it's like in medicine, right? It's like we want everything to be like electronic. We spend bajillion dollars on electronic medical record systems and all this stuff. And at the end of the day, when I want to send a letter to somebody, I still got to freaking fax the thing. Okay, with like a phone line. Like, it's archaic, right? Like, and that's mostly that's how medicine is. But GW can avoid that, right? Like, if they want to make the app good, then put some of the dudes who bind books into app writing. It's like just go into it. Like, give us the rules. Let's say that the app was like, I don't know, £10 a month, but you got all your rules for free. Every army that released, it just gets updated in there. You get all the rules. You get the app builder all in. This is the only thing you're ever going to need, this app. Like, would you do that?
Yeah, I would.
Twice as much money?
Yeah, I would comfortably. And there's probably a number higher than that I'd be willing to go for. But ultimately, that wouldn't change my kind of like premise or my thoughts in that I really do think if the rules are just there free, you just sell models. Like someone I think Tim was saying in the chat a minute ago, who was basically like, he's bought so many models because of the Azir app, because he's like looked at it and then he's like gone, cool, I like this, I'm going to go buy it. I really do think like that you would end up with, I think you end up with a more knowledgeable player base as well. Like, for instance, like, you know, you might not buy, or one of us might not buy a competing codex or a codex that isn't the one that we're collecting. So we don't know anything about it. So when we get to a tournament, we don't know how it works. So I think you would end up with like a better player base as well, like who would understand the game more, which means they're more likely to, like, if you paywall up before buying the minis. But I agree with you. Like, ultimately, if there was a subscription app and it had everything, I'd still pay for that. It doesn't defeat my point, I think, but like I would pay for it. That would be halfway to where I'd want to be, I think.
I think you're right? Because like sometimes I just wander over onto the Forge World website and I'm like, oh, that's nice. And then I just like want to buy it, right? So
yeah.
if I'm looking at like, oh, I want to start another army, like how do I do that? How do I do that without spending like $60 on a book first, right? Like, and I go into the app and all I see is, you know, you can't read this or whatever. I'm like, that's just annoying, right? Like, it's very annoying.
Very annoying. Oh well. I mean, ultimately, it doesn't really matter because Battlescribe and Warhammer are there. So until they're not there, the community is well served. But if you're a new player, you don't really know that, I guess. Ultimately, which is a shame. But yeah, one of the other questions I was going to ask you about, pushing beyond the app, is obviously LVO and Adepticon were cancelled this year, which is obviously makes loads of sense. Congratulations, well done, gents. But as an organizer yourself for Capital City Bloodbath and also Canhammer Team Tournament, like how is which are major tournaments, FYI for everyone in the world, major tournaments. How is planning something like that? Like in this time, like is it just wait and see? Like do you keep making plans and then redoing those plans? Like how are you processing it?
Yeah, it's difficult. So, you know, I guess when COVID hit last year, kind of February, March break was really where it kind of kicked off. We had already just done Canhammer Team, so that's okay. But then it was like we usually start planning CCBB after Canhammer Team, kind of April time, May, and so it was pretty obvious after like 4 to 6 weeks that that was just not going to happen. And the good thing about our venue and our partners is it's fairly flexible. So we weren't at risk of, like, I understand why some of these bigger tournaments, like our tournament is big, but it's not like Adepticon big, or we're not a convention. And so it was easy for us to bail without any financial loss or anything like that. Like, so I get why some of these big tournaments hold on for longer, because they probably have to wait till they're forced to bail in order to not lose a bunch of money. But, you know, now we're in the thick of it. It's like, okay, Canhammer Team, February, March next year. Yeah, that's not happening, right? It's fairly easy. We didn't even start to plan that. And then CCBB is like trickling in, right? It's like, okay, August, that's doable. Let's say, you know, vaccination really hits full swing, February, March. You know, our COVID numbers particularly are not bad even right now. So it's doable, I think. How much effort have we put in yet? We've generally agreed on a rough date, and that's about it. We don't have to pony up for the convention space or anything yet. You know, we don't have to make much in the way of other arrangements yet. We just kind of let it trickle in our consciousness and pick a rough date and kind of wait a little bit to see. The next 2-3 months is going to be really key in terms of where this COVID thing is heading for most people in the world. So yeah, and even if we wait till March, like, we're still good to go for that. So,
well, that's a positive. I really do think that, and it's not. I don't think pushing an event before it's safe to do so. So it's not a spreader event is a good idea anyway. So that's not really. I'm not like, let's go. I'm just more asking because they're large events, and they're also like big social focal points for like parts of communities. You know, and I do hope that like under best advice. That they're as safe to go to as possible, and like are like going to be like fun things again in our life. So like I'm excited about that, and I feel like Capital City Bloodbath of all of the events that I've attended over the past few years is the one that I've in my head I'm like, that seems like the most, like, I'm like, it's August, I feel like that's okay, because that's also around the time for WTC. Like, so I feel like if WTC is happening, I feel like that should be happening. Maybe
Yeah.
I would like to think anyway. So
Yeah, and it was whatever August last year. The summer just passed, and it was that weekend. Just on the Saturday, I caught myself, and I was like, this was supposed to be CCBB right now, and it was a weird moment. That was, yeah.
How are you adjusting to, or are you going to adjust to needed? Are you going to change up mats, or are you just going to square off mats? Like, what's your plan? Because I mean, that's a nightmare. Because you know what? Someone brought the point up to me yesterday, I think, that no one has really kicked off about the smaller board sizes. But maybe that's because of COVID, and no TOs in the world really needed to get their 150, 200 mats, or whatever it is out, and be like, okay, I need to tape off 150 mats. But I guess now, like, looking at that in the future, it's like, actually, that's a lot of effort. You got any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, for one, I do like the small table. I think it's a great change.
Okay.
I don't think people should go cutting their mats, because you know what? When next edition rolls around in a year or two, now they're gonna be like 6x4, 6x4. You feel like shit. So don't cut your mats, okay? Please. Like, so all what I've done at home is really easy. It's just put, I have 2-inch duct tape, and so that marks off the long edges, and then I just cover one of the short edges with the like a neoprene runner that I stole from Adepticon, and and that's where we put the dice tray, and that's where you put your deep strikers. And so it actually works out pretty well. But obviously, doing that for will be like 80, 100 tables is difficult. People have made these neoprene like adjusters that you just overlay, but at the end of the day, I mean, you just grab like 6 or 7 rolls of duct tape and just tape it up. Like, it doesn't take very long. That's probably what we'll end up doing. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't go buy a whole bunch of new mats either. Like, that just seems like a lot of money for something that was very likely to be reverted in a couple of years. So
yeah, I'm like, it's the same balance obviously between Age of Sigmar and 40k, because at the minute the Age of Sigmar one's obviously 6x4, and I'm pretty certain that that's going to change up to the new 40k size as well.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I feel that. So that ultimately means, like, it's weird. It's weird just trying to work out what to do. You're like, do we get smaller mats? Do we not get smaller mats? Do we tape off every mat? It's an effort. Even taping the mats off, you have to be pretty precise, right? Like,
yeah,
you got to get some good measurements in there, otherwise you end up messing it up. I don't know. I feel like someone is in the market to make a whole bunch of neoprene strips, like you said, just a ton of them, and then maybe you sell them as well as addition, but it probably costs the same as a new mat.
Well, I was trying to get our guys at Dream Tea who make our objective markers. I was trying to get them to see what it would cost to print like a runner to cut off the long edge, the short edge, where you've lost like a foot or something. And on the runner, though, you could have a little area where you could actually mark it, army here, and then you could have like a scorekeeping area.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And you could even, for the event specifically, you could put CCBB logos on it, and you could put a table number on the runner.
Oh, that would be cool, yeah.
And then we don't have to faff around with those silly little plastic things that we use for table numbers. So that would be kind of cool, but I don't know how much that would cost is the thing. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I feel like there's some genuine challenges there, but fun to think through, ultimately. So, like, with the another thing that's come up that I haven't managed to hear your thoughts on is, and we've kind of touched on this a little bit, is the campaign books. So not only are we getting new codexes, we're also getting campaign books. Have you got any thoughts of? I'm just asking you about 40k, man. Like, I'm just asking you about 40k. It's not my fault. These are the questions. Any thoughts?
So what was the last thing, like Vigilus something, or so it's and it's the same with White Dwarf rules. White Dwarf rules is particularly egregious. I hate White Dwarf rules. Like why are there rules in this magazine? Like it goes back to the paper versus electronic thing. Like magazine rules. Like where are we in the 80s? Like stop printing magazines. But anyway. So I don't mind campaign books. I see why they do them to push storylines ahead, introduce interesting characters, stuff like that. But it just gets back into the whole thing of too many books again, right?
Hmm.
Like we just wiped it all clean, like kind of, not even like a full wipe clean like Eighth was, and now we're gonna get like campaign books back again, and then you have to carry different books around. Now, if they were going full hog into the app, as we already talked about, you could just release all that stuff on the app, and then you wouldn't have to worry about that. But inevitably, given the current trajectory, you're gonna have to carry around a bunch of books again to your tournaments, and uh, uh just seems like it's going in the wrong direction. But
Okay,
anyway,
all right. I mean, I'm kind of excited by the story at least. Like,
yeah,
I don't know if you're like well up in with the story, but that's the at least the exciting part for me is like progressive storylines and moving forward, which leads me into my next question: is if you, with the Custodians, if you were to see a progressive storyline, because their storyline has changed a bit with the launch of their codex, obviously last year or a couple of years ago, in that kind of push where they are operating outside of the throne room. Like, what would you like to see the Custodians doing in the Imperium, or just doing what they're doing now?
yeah, it's difficult. It was a kind of change of perspective when they started to roam the galaxy.
Hmm.
Obviously, it's cool because then like there's more opportunities for them to be in books and stuff,
Hmm.
which is cool.
Yeah.
Uh, in terms of like what do I want them doing? Well, so secretly, I'd like for us to discover what happened to Valdor.
Okay.
Um, and if there's any Primarch coming back, then Valdor could come back. Just saying.
do you think that would be because he's very good? Like, he's Primarch level strong, right?
Basically, so like that would be kind of our thing, and I don't know if the goal eventually is for a whole bunch of more Primarchs to come back. But that would certainly be an easy candidate, as easy as Russ coming back. To be honest, we don't know what happened to Russ,
No.
so
I
that would
feel
be cool.
yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. How do you feel about like the Primarch level stuff in game? Do you think it detracts from the game, or do you think it's like a positive, like having the big lads romping around?
So we were just talking about this the other day on the Discord, and with when Mortarion rules got published for the new
Mm.
codex, I personally don't like the Primarchs for the game.
Okay.
I love the models, and I love the fluff around all that stuff, but I personally do not like giant models in the game, and that not just Primarchs, but I don't like knights, shadow swords. I don't. I feel like it. The big models are too polarizing. They're either they if you want to make them good, they're usually like too good and too difficult to deal with, especially if you end up running multiples of them. And then if they're bad, well, there's no way you're gonna pay so much money
Mm.
for such a not money, so many points or money for such a model, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I feel like it's really hard to balance them internally and externally. And if you allow people to take multiple, then that problem just magnifies. And so everyone remembers the bugbear of the 4 night list, how polarizing that list was. That at CCBB that year, we had like 200 knights, right? And night night players were complaining about always playing against night players, and I'm like, well, it's not my fault, guys. It's you guys' fault. Um, so, and it still is like even now, if you happen to find a player and play against 4 knights, it's like you either win or lose. You either can handle it or you can't,
Mm.
and that's it. And I just feel like the big models are kind of like that. So that's kind of my personal feeling about them in the game. I do like the big models in terms of like I have them,
Mm.
but yeah.
Yeah, I'd
So
agree with that. I also feel like there's that Ludo narrative distance, isn't there? Where like you have Mortarion who's been alive for 10,000 years, and then like just a really keen unit of Eradicators take him out, and you're like, where were you 10,000 years ago, or at any point in the past 10,000 years? Ultimately, so I like you kind of think he would like just walk through. He'd walk through armies basically. In
yeah,
some situations, same with Magnus. So I feel like they're underpowered for how I feel they should be, but they're overpowered sometimes. I'm not saying they're overpowered models because oftentimes they haven't been, but they're overpowered like compared to like other stuff on the tabletop, and it really it changes up the shape of a game. So I'm with you there. I always said that for for Age of Sigmar, and this will probably be true for 40k as well. There should be like it should be like the shard of Mortarion. So it's like Mortarion at like 10%. You know, you're not really giving it your all. He's just like distracted. He turns up, as opposed to like full power Mortarion. You know, then you could have like, you know, you could have a data sheet that you kind of flip, and there's one that's like 4,000 point Mortarion where he's like fighting warlords and titans, and he's just out there smashing face. That would be cool. But ultimately, they haven't. I'm just making sure I haven't kept you too long, Darren. Are we good?
Yeah, no, we're good. So, like, I was just reading the latest Horus Heresy book, Saturnine, and no, maybe minor spoiler, not really, but Sanguinius flies over to a warlord titan, the biggest of all titans, sticks a spear in the head, and the whole thing just goes to shit and falls over. And it doesn't take a single shot. Like, it's just flying around like a little flyboy. And so I'm like, okay, that's really cool narratively, but like, so if you happen to get Sanguinius in 40k, like, are you expecting this thing to just be invulnerable and just take out Warlord Titans? Like the Primarchs are supposed to be like that. So how do you transition that to the tabletop without them being crazy? You know, I played Mortarion a while ago, and that dude, I could not kill him because Death Card hard enough to kill, let alone their Primarch. And then he hit me once for 42 wounds.
Wow.
It's like, that's crazy, right? Like, you literally just wipe me out. And Magnus, sometimes if you get a bit lucky and you buff him up to 3-up invul, you just can't kill that guy, right? So it's like, I'm not a fan play-wise of the big models. But I do like them, like, in terms of, like, I love big models anyway.
Yeah, same.
Especially when they're beautiful, and so it's great. But yeah,
it is a balancing act. They either are stomping around or they're doing nothing. And I know I'm with you. And like in the knight situation was a really tough one for everyone to be a part of as well. But they must have sold just a ton of knights. Like, let's be honest, they must have sold that kit 1 billion times.
Yeah. Everybody's got like knights. Even I have like 3 or 4 knights, and I never even played knights, right? Like, it's just like, I don't know why I have these knights, but yeah, it's like, and you can't have something that's like 500 points, 400 points be a utility model or like a buff model, right? Like, that doesn't work. The thing either has to kill a bunch of stuff, right? It's like the primary imperative of these models. And so, you can't just have it just sit there and do nothing. Even G-Man, like, he's less expensive and he's not as big, but he's still really hard to kill. But he can be a buff thing, but still he's the threat. If he gets close to you, he's gonna kill you. So yeah, it's like, I don't know. These are tough models to balance.
Really tough. But how do you feel about what they've done with like the Catans and even Gazgul? And they're in it, so they've made it so, okay, these are going to survive 3 or 4 turns, or not 3 or 4 turns, like maybe 2 battle rounds. So you can't get one-shotted, which is great. But then they're okay in the game. They're not huge. I think that was a really positive change.
I think that mechanic works okay to achieve that result, that they don't get insta-gibbed. I think you could make some other, obviously there's other ways to do that as well, but I think it works okay. There's some armies that can't deal with that kind of thing. I mean, the Satan, specifically for my army, is really hard to deal with. You almost have to just get a bit lucky, because we don't have output in other phases other than shooting and combat. And which is fine if that thing also didn't completely wreck your army in 1 round. So again, it's the balance, right? Like, so this thing is hard to kill, sure, I can handle that. But if it touches me, like, I just die in front of it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't have that many models, so it's like it becomes a matchup problem that you have to try and solve. And I don't mind having that problem to try and solve, because we don't have problems to solve, then what are we doing? But yeah, so I don't mind that mechanic as long as they don't have too many wounds. So like 9 I think would be the max. And then this thing also heals though, which is the problem as well. Adds to that.
I've used Gazzy, and I was using him yesterday as well, and like, you really do feel it when you start getting towards that bracket where he's then gonna die. But it is nice knowing that he's like, invulnerable basically for a turn or two, and that does feel really quite good. And I've used them quite a few times in several games, and I really like that mechanic. I think you could probably do that mechanic badly as well. You could like mess it up, but it's just super fun. And so far, I don't feel like it's been over the top. Ultimately, like I've got to spend a CP to run around with a pain boy behind him, like healing him up. So that's costing me a resource to like, and it's D3, so a couple of rolls of ones, and I really do feel the difference between that and rolling the threes. So ultimately, like, I quite like it, and I think it's really positive for the game because it stops that like big model issue a bit. But we've obviously seen on Mortarian's War Scroll that that's not the case for him. And I was kind of hoping you got something like that. You can only take 6 a phase, like, or something like that on those 18 wounds, and it's like, cool, he's going to be alive for, some phases, but and then that's it. I thought that would be a good change for Mortarion, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's in there.
Yeah, it becomes weird then when you start getting. I don't know if Mortarion's the case, but when you start being able to degrade, and then you have a mechanic on top of that stops you from taking extra wounds, then you're adding in an extra wrinkle to the invulnerability. Good or bad, I don't know, but then it starts to become a little bit different than something that's just 9 wounds, it doesn't degrade, and then it takes you X amount of kill. Also, the inability to take more than X number of wounds, that calculation also changes the more wounds you have. So as you put that on a Stompa, like you can do it, but it just changes it a little bit. I don't know how it changes it for the better or for the worse, but maybe that's why they didn't put it on, Mortarion.
Although obviously we do want it to go on the Stomper, of course. Like
Val does for sure.
Max 5 wounds per turn, or
5 wounds per turn. Guaranteed to live.
I faced the Stompy yesterday. He killed 7 boys and 1 mech gun in a turn. I was like, this is fine. You can do this all day. But the next turn he did go insane, so it's fine. It's absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
So you're gonna my question: you're gonna stick with the Custodes? Is that like it, or is there any of the new codexes that could like grab you to move away for a bit?
Well, I'm just about to start painting my Gene Stealer army, actually, after having it for like the last year and it being gray plastic. So I just it's difficult to motivate to paint right now. So that's the main reason I haven't been painting up any armies. But I'm gonna start painting my Gene Stealer army. I gotta finish my Harlequins at some point. Like, there's still a big backlog.
Mm-hmm.
So
how come you find it?
Yeah.
How come you've been struggling to paint?
I don't know. It's just like there's nothing to paint for in terms of like tournaments and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And initially, I went hard at the beginning of lockdown painting those Eldar bikes, which took me like 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then that kind of took it out of me for a bit. So yeah, and then as we talked about earlier, with the lockdown actually came other opportunities for life, and so I've been doing a lot of other stuff other than hiding in the basement, and so I've spent a lot of time cycling and stuff like that. So when I had a choice between summer evening, doing some painting or going out cycling, then I chose cycling. So yeah, the hobby just kind of took a little bit of a rest for a minute, but as winter approaches, probably start to paint some stuff up again.
Yeah, same. I really do feel like painting your armies is the winter project, like the winter hobby to get involved. Also, I don't know about you, this is just a personal question, but COVID has really made me appreciate just going out for a walk. Oh, baby. Like, I'm like, do you fancy walking like a pair of old ladies for 45 minutes? And everyone's like, yeah, I'm really down for that. Let's go.
Yeah, so what's funny is initially in the lockdown, the streets were empty. Like, I live in a little residential area, it was empty. And then slowly, like April, May, especially as it got warmer, there would be swarms of people just walking around in little groups. Way more than you would normally see walking around, even though our neighborhood is quite good for walking. As that was like a really weird thing. Everyone just started to go outside walking, and obviously I got into cycling and stuff. So that was I'd rather go very fast than go slow, but yeah. So just like the novelty of going outside.
It's so fun. It's so fun. Like I've been on more like walking adventures with people than I've ever imagined I would. I'm always like, oh, I'll make some soup. Do you want to go for a walk? And everyone's like, yes. And I'm like, this is so 1910s. Like, I just need to find myself a moor, and then I'll be having the best time ever. We have a question. What color is your bike, Darren?
My bike is black. I was originally going to go with this kind of like sky blue color, and then I was like, I'll just go for the black. So it's like it's a full carbon bike, so it's like a brushed black. Okay. And it has these stripes on it, which I didn't even realize until I got the bike, but the stripes are reflective, which is pretty cool on the black. So yeah, my bike's black.
That's fun. Have you got one of the cycling outfits? You know, like the full gear?
Well, you have to. You see,
oh,
it's
really?
like it's not even an option if you're gonna ride like a road bike and you intend to go long distance or to go fast. You have to have the cycling kit because, first of all, aerodynamics, right? You can't have flappy bits, and that makes a big difference in terms of speed and how much energy you have to put in. And then also, you need the padding. If you never seen bike shorts, you don't know, but the butt and the groin is heavily padded, so that you could sit on those seats for more than 5 minutes. So you have to have it.
Well, yeah, I only ask because, like a Custodians, I wonder if you had some sort of cape/long coat that kind of flapped in the wind as you like whipped by, because that would look cool at least.
I need to make one.
Yeah, you do. I've got another question based on about the Custodians. So, how would you feel at Capital City Bloodbath as the TO? Because our co-host Tom Layton, he has painted up a Custodians army. However, unfortunately, they're I say unfortunately, it depends on which side of the fence you sit. They are, of course, the Ram Ranch Custodians, who are very naked. Have you got any? Have you got any thoughts about allowing the Ram Ranch Custodians into a tournament, or would you be like, no, come on, that doesn't make sense?
Well, as long as you pass them through the TO for approval beforehand, then it will be fine.
Yes, but this is what I'm asking you. You're the TO. What are you saying? Yes or no? Where are you? You're not making the decision.
Yeah, I think if Tom wants to come over to CCBB with his Ram Ranch Custodes, then I'll have to let him, because we need to gather the celebrities together. So.
I love the idea of that list doing super, super well. Which kind of brings me on to the question: How do you think Custodians are faring in this edition?
I think we're doing fine. We're definitely way better than we were last edition. So there's no arguing that. I think a well-played Custodians list can still beat most other armies, and on the modern table. So I think the most important thing is really, if you want to be good at it, is just to play a lot against different people. So yeah, I think we're up there. We're not like the best book in the game by far, but we're definitely at the upper end. And I think a well-played army on an appropriate terrain-sized table has a chance to beat anybody.
Okay, and what's like the strengths of the book at the minute? Like where are we sitting? Is it all about big gunships, or is that not the case?
I think the Ares is fine. And I think really what you want, the cool thing about the book right now actually is it's very internally balanced, especially with the Forge World update. Everything is kind of as good as everything else. It's really hard to have those arguments now that we used to have all the time, which is, this is better than this. Everything is kind of good. So what you use really is kind of up to you. If you want to play Ram Ranch Venatari, then go ahead. I think everything has its use. Everything is good. And so really you got to decide what are the things you're going to play against and use the units that you think are best against those kind of units. But like I change my list quite regularly just as part of the process on the Discord that I go through with the guys. And every list I make has pros and cons and who it can beat and who it'll struggle against. So I think the coolest thing about the book right now is that you could almost pick almost anything and do well with it if you play it well. And it's very balanced internally right now in that way, which is cool.
That is very cool. That's sweet. I over lockdown I finished my Custodians army off actually. So they're all pairing up. We've got some dreadnoughts, got some bikers, got some dudes. So I'm very excited to put those on the tabletop as well. Is there anything you ever like throw in there in the mix, or do you keep them as pure custodians, or is there any like good kind of like dudes to ally in?
Well, I think people have had success allying in Scions, for example, because they give you those cheap dudes that you can just get your scramblers or drop in and get behind line breakers, stuff like that. They give you a little bit of firepower too for the cost. So Scions is a good one. I think you could do, you could do good with any army. I'm actually thinking like it would be really cool right now to just ally in like one single Scorpius tank just to pling off wounds on a Satan. Like it's
Just
almost that
something
much
to
of a
get in.
problem. Yeah, it's
Oh,
like that much
really?
of a problem that you want to put those 3 wounds on like the first turn. So you just take like one single Scorpius tank. Because of course you can't hide behind character protection. So, but like I think you can actually ally in lots of things as long as you're doing it to fill the gaps, right? So there's no point allying in like a melee unit because like you already have that, right? So the ethos of the channel, of course, is to play pure Custodes. That's always been the mission of the channel. So I don't really play any soup options, but lots of people have had success with those kind of things. And I really want sisters to be less soupy. Like it's not really soup, but I would have liked them to be integrated in a more fluffy way into our army.
In what way do you mean?
I would have really liked it. Well, on the basic sense, if they were troops, that would be way better than being elites. Number one, but I would have really liked it if they would have let us put like a sister model into a unit, kind of like in the fluff, like a single sister joins like a single custodian usually, and then that confers some kind of psychic protection to us, and she kind of walks around with the unit. That would be cool. That would be fluffy, and because right now it's clunky to use sisters. You got to take units. They got to take up your elite slots, and most of our good units are elite slots. So that affects how you have to make your army, and you have to. So and them being troops is them being elites is they're not obsec, and anyway. So I would have liked it if the sisters were less of a tack on and more of a integrated into a Talon's army. Because right now it's just Custodes with random sisters units. So that would have been nice.
Yeah, it reminds me of reading about the attack on Magnus's homeworld, where you had all the Custodians like landing, and like the sisters were like they were spread out like amongst all the forces to like shut down Thousand Suns, which I thought was super cool. So yeah, if it integrated like that, so it felt more like that, that would be super sweet. Because they're also meant to be quite rare. Like they're not meant to be loads of them knocking around, right? That would be super fun.
Yeah, like they were supposed to be forgotten for like whatever. They had to be rediscovered, right? And so there's not many of them. And so you would think that in an army of Custodians, you might have 1 or 2 sprinkled in here or there, just kind of, doing their thing. And they're supposed to be also pretty badass in combat, which, at strength 3, they're not really. But, like if we had the ability to use just Alea by herself, without taking Christopher Walken, then that would be cool. And we could take Alea, and maybe if they had given us another HQ sister, and then just have 2 HQs like in your army, that don't get shot off because they're characters, and give you a bit of the anti-psychic stuff, and then maybe a little bit of a beat stick in combat. Like that would be much cooler than just running like 5 girls who just stand at the back. It's like, yeah.
I think that's actually one of the things that I like most about not the Marine book, not you, but the Necron book, is I feel like that they've thought through a lot of the options about how they play on the tabletop, which is why I was so excited about the Death Guard book, because I was like, okay, this is them. They've had this book out, and I do feel like no matter what we think about the codexes, good or bad for 8th edition, they were the first codexes of this. Like 8th was significantly different to 7th in structure, the way it worked, how units moved around the board, how everything interacted. So it's their first time writing some of these codexes into that kind of space, and the space hasn't changed very much. So the actual core mechanics haven't changed, which is great. So now they're doing version 2 of some of these codexes, and I think they did a pretty good job with the Necron book, personally. And the Marine book is whatever. I don't think you can really judge it based on the Marine book. But I was excited about the Death Guard book and excited about the Drakari book to really see like how they've thought through some of these armies, how they've thought through some of these kind of play styles, with an edition's worth of knowledge backing them up. So hopefully, maybe that'll be some stuff that they really realise for the Custodians Force. Because I do feel like the Custodians Force like plugs into and is part of like a larger kind of Imperium-based faction that you don't like. There's Inquisition, obviously. There's all of that element, which you kind of would hope that there's a codex you could write that's got all of that involved, if that makes sense, and you could create a better. Would you be okay with that, or would you want it to be just pure Custodians with Sisters?
I don't mind if we're good to plug in. I don't think we're particularly useful or necessary to plug in these days, because I don't think we bring that much to armies that they don't already have. But like in terms of like if you run like a Imperium strike force, like a few Marines, some guardsmen, and then like a few Custodians sprinkled in there. Yeah, like I always said from the beginning, it'd be cool if they could somehow make our rules reminiscent of the fluff, which is that we really work in individual models. We don't run around in units of 10 Terminators, right? And I have no idea how that could be implemented in the game other than the Unleashed Alliance strat, which is hilarious sometimes. But like it would be cool if there was some nod to how they actually function in the lore, to how we function on the tabletop. And maybe it's just not possible with the rule set, but that would be cool. And then you could easily just plug in a few Custodians into your army, right? Like we used to do with those shield captains when they used to bring 3 shield captains on bike. That's actually way more fluffy than the way the army works now. But that would be cool. I don't know how that would work in the context of 9th and what that would do to our force as a solo faction. But that would be cool.
Oh, you got any thoughts on like what secondaries? Well, I guess generally, how do you feel about Codex secondaries? That's a big question at the minute, isn't it? I hadn't really realised how big a question. Yeah, what have you got any feelings on that? Codex secondaries?
I think it's too early to tell.
Okay.
Obviously, Oath of Moment is really good. The Necron ones are all generally pretty good. And Deathwatch ones, not enough people play Deathwatch to really know. I think potentially I can see both sides of the argument, right? Like, why do you have this thing that gives you 15 points automatically every game, and I don't have one of those? Especially since I don't have a book. So I can see that it's very polarizing. I think it's too early to really decide, because it's only 4 books. But that probably is going to result in some tournaments comping it, saying no, and some tournaments comping it, saying everything's fine.
That really swings the dial, though, on like the stats.
It can,
and everything else. That's it's not upsetting, but it's a shame, I think, because there was a real opportunity. But when they're also meant to be Codex actions as well. No, that never came to fruition. I thought they were meant to be Codex actions.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought so, but maybe in terms of secondaries.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Some of the secondaries are actions. Yeah, of course. That makes sense. Yeah, I just was excited by them, and now they just seem like, okay, you just get 15 points because you're this army. Also, you get another 15 points because you're Deathwatch as well.
Yeah, like it's difficult because if you want these to be something that's suited to that army to do, because otherwise, like, it's stupid. But then by nature of it being very suited to what the army does naturally, this becomes very easy. So it's like difficult to make that balance, right?
Maybe it should have been more like, like a secondary quest. Like I hear what you're saying. Like Gene Stealer Cults maybe would be a good example. I guess Deep Strike would be something that's already what they do. But I guess if you had them do an action where they're just like graffitiing a wall or something that's almost like non-game playing, where they're doing some sort of action that's just narrative, but basically a unit has to stand around somewhere doing something. I think you would end up with some really funny stories off that. Like I love deploy scramblers because I'm just like, I don't even know what my Gretchen are doing, but I know they're deploying some scramblers, right? Like, I'm not really sure what that is. I'm not really sure why Gretchen would do it. Yeah. But there's like 10 Gretchen just stood around a weird knob, and they're just like, teleport me! And then like they get there, and then they're like, deploy scramblers? They're like, what are you doing, little Gretchen? What's your plan? So if they had whatever it would be, like, I think there'd be some fun. You could write some really fun, almost RPG style stuff into the game, which you're trying to achieve, which don't like. Whereas just kill more units, like the Marine one is basically, or just basically be a Marine, which is the Marine one, is really rubbish. And I am a bit disappointed by those personally.
Sometimes I think about the narrative. I'm like, okay, so I got this 400-point Terminator unit just standing in the middle deploying a scrambler. And they're probably like, yo, what am I doing, man? I'm a 400-point unit. Why am I sitting here? What the fuck is a scrambler? Like, I'm already here. Why do I need a scrambler? But yeah, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, I've been alive for 400 years. Why am I doing this? Like, send me over there towards the enemy. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. But ultimately, I think the game's generally in a better place, which I think is positive. You got any plans for Christmas?
No, we're just staying home. We're sending all our virtual gifts all over the place, and just staying home and enjoying the family time. So that's about it, really. Actually, everyone I know is kind of staying home, and my parents aren't coming, and nobody's really doing anything much. So it's probably what it needs to be. So, but yeah, just quiet Christmas.
Yeah, it's going to be. It's interesting. It's really hard to get yourselves out that mental head. Well, I'm trying to get myself out of mental health headspace that as soon as the year's over, it's all going to be sorted and COVID's gone away. But it's not the case. So I'm trying to I don't know about you, but I'm trying to just get my head in that's not we got to go through January, got to go through February, sort of thing. So, but Christmas is a fun time, no matter what the situation. Plus, great opportunity for more walks with Soup, which is my life now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we should probably start wrapping this up. You got any big things you want to tell us about? Anything going on with the channel?
No, the channel is coming back. We got a game later today against Francois. It's our second game post lockdown. So, I think I'm gonna get my ass handed to me by Francois on the White Scars. Other than that, the channel carries on doing what it's doing, and that's about it, really.
All right, great. That's really good. And this is Francois from Hellfire Wargaming?
Nope, just Francois from local Ottawa area. He's been on a lot of our shows and everything. Yeah, it's one of regular play partners.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, sweet. And that's Canhammer. For some reason, if any of you don't know who Darren is from Canhammer, although yesterday I was calling you Karen from Danhammer, which question is whether or not there's a potential name change there. Danhammer?
Karen. I'm a Karen.
Karen from Danhammer? You don't want to be part of
that? Definitely not a Karen.
You're definitely not. No, that's true. All right, well, cool. Well, we're commentating because we're still in the deepest of lockdowns. So there's no meeting up, but we are commentating on a TTS game tonight. Me and the guys. So I'm looking forward to that. If you guys want to join us, me, Nick, and Tom. It's a Scottish TTS League game. They'll be using WTC rules and WTC map, which is super fun. So please do join us. It's Iron Hands versus... I forgot, which is a shame. But I thought we were away from Iron Hands. Oh, Necrons. It's Iron Hands versus Necrons is what it is. So looking forward to that. Darren, thanks for being on the show.
All right, thanks for having me, Rob.
It's been lovely. Thanks everyone else for tuning in. Thanks to everyone on Patreon, of course. Thank you to everyone on the podcast, Stay Hydrated, and of course everyone on the Twitch chat. We'll see you guys later, and everyone, just have a great day. See you guys soon.
Yep.
Bye.
See ya.